Horace. It's episode 19 or something like that. Let's get started. Scrig, you were the only one who was around last time, so would you like to do the recap? Moldy motivations. And I have art for her finally, because occasionally I put effort into this kind of thing. As uh, mea culpa. But so we ended with the ghost in your vision, enhanced with magic, able to see her form superimposed upon Anselmo. And as you threaten, cajole, sort of uh, attempt to convince her to leave, she steps out of Anselmo's bot, or she had stepped out of Anselmo's body, sort of leaving him almost like hunched over a little, asleep on his feet almost, and a wave of terror washed out over. I'm just gonna retcon saying that all of you were there, even though you weren't here last session, Scout. Wave of terror, distracting, misdirecting, overwhelming, washed through you all as you fell within her, emotional aura, giving you a -2 to all actions, including spellcasting. And she put forward her very reasonable to her sounding terms. She would love to hang around, and she won't cause any trouble unless pushed. But she is very capable of defending her newfound freedom in her eyes. So that's where we left off, and that's where we'll hop back into it. Yes, you are out on the deck. Everyone else is inside enjoying dinner, for the time being. Uh, you didn't anticipate anyone else sort of being out here, uh, in your part of the deck for at least a little bit. Some people will come out to, well, actually, the navigator might have lashed the helm. We'll just say, for the sake of drama, that, you have the deck to yourselves for the time being. Mm. Okay. So is she sort of I imagine that, everyone is sort of outwardly affected by, this show of force, the hesitation, sort of coming as part of that. But what's the, approach? What's the body language? What's Wake's bead? Terror. Mhm. So it sounds like silence for a bit, a spell of silence, a spell of awe. What breaks it? Is it something that one of you two does, or is it something she does? Sure. I think that this would be a good opportunity, given sort of how rushed your exit must have seemed, and given that dinner is probably coming to a conclusion. Dalian might be needed to help clean up or organize in the galley. So I think tapping Balthazar in happens about now as a pool of light spills out from the far end of the deck. The door to the galley opens, and a familiar silhouette steps out. The sound of, cheering, laughter, clinking of plates and forks accompanies him out into the otherwise silent save for the sound of the waves space of the deck. And he, calls out, Dalian, where you at, lad? We need your help in here. Dinner's concluding. We need the grog, etc. As he comes out looking for you. Um, Anselmo, the corporeal body, doesn't seem to, respond. Still asleep on his feet until the entity, the woman, looks this what looks to her left, your right, at the approaching figure of Balthazar, and she steps backward into Anselmo. Your periphery catches these flickers, wisps, tinkles, whatever bits of slight sound or movement signal the emanation of some effect from her as she steps back into her overlay of Anselmo, momentarily imitating his posture of being hunched down, head dropped, and wake. They wake back up together, um, and calls out, "Over here. We were just talking, just talking." His voice is slowed, slurred, awkward, but with your newfound understanding of what's going on in his inner life, you catch sort of the awkwardness of her lips imposed over on Selma's lips, and sort of the difference in size and shape between her mouth and his mouth, causing sort of the awkwardness of the movement, the sort of strangeness of the speech. You get the feeling that her mastery over this bit of flesh is not perfect, but certainly capable. And Balthazar approaches, comes looking for you, is relieved but very curious to see the three of you with Anselmo, um, and notably concerned given your posture and demeanor. Interesting. Sure. And for posterity and viewers' sake, this is the first session we're playing with a small change to how the Spirit Arcana works. If you're familiar with the archives in MageCourt, this is the World Song hack. Um, in this version, given that the shadow has never actually appeared on screen, there is no shadow in this world anymore. There is only spirit twilight and resonance, ever present, omnipresent resonance, yet of different strengths based on sort of the emotional activity of a given area. This is referred to colloquially as the world song. So, in this version of the Spirit Arcanum, rather than just being the Arcanum of Gribblies and Gribbly accessories, it is much more focused on manipulating these vibes, manipulating the world song in a local area to give it certain notes, tags, properties, which may provide tilts, may provide bonuses or penalties to certain checks based on the nature of the resonance. Fun stuff like that. We'll see how it goes. Um, but with Spirit Sight up, you're able to see the local state of the world song. This is a ship, um, and a ship is a small island of activity, of passion, of community in the middle of a vast desert of silence, essentially. A sort of traveling bastion of world song at strength 2 amidst a sea of world song 1. And Balthazar, as sort of the center of this ship's crew, of this community, of this sort of floating bucket that's keeping everyone alive, sort of plays a central role in the song here. The resonance and the emotions of lots of people hang on to him, onto his decisions, and onto the way he runs this ship. So I think that the vibes emanating on the deck are very rancid, tinged with terror, tinged with fear and grief, overwhelming grief in the song here. But with Balthazar's entry, the grief is commingling with hope, with avarice, and with uh, food. Um, Balthazar is confused, but also with his connection to you and with his, sort of understanding of the way you operate, knows that your words are laden with meaning, typically, subtext and all that, and very slowly asks, which burdens exactly must we unload? Many of us have full backpacks. Mhm. Yeah. At this point, Anselmo slash the ghost, speaking through Anselmo, pipes up saying, "Oh, yes, it's been very hard remembering Anna. Her birthday was coming up. Uh, it's it's a difficult time. Uh, I I've been struggling without to get by without getting into the cups, and that's always hard on a man. The shaking sickness when uh, however they referred to withdrawal in those times." And Balthazar seems to get it or get what he thinks it is at this point, and turns to Anselmo and with a hand on the shoulder, brings him back into the or moves to bring him back into the dining hall. Get him some more grub, some warm food will do a belly good, especially in these or in these windy nights out on the Caribbean Sea. And as he walks away, he's looking back at the three of you over his shoulder, asking with his eyes if this is over, or if it's just beginning. Mm. Okay. And before too long, you are left alone on the deck. Only the sound of the wind blowing through the masts and the ropes and the sails. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, or simply isn't finding what it wants here, and making it go elsewhere, perhaps wherever that elsewhere is, TBD. All right. So is there a sort of long-term, medium-term project hatching here that we could start chipping away at in, over time? Sort of. Sounds like a project to me. Okay, cool. Um, zooming camera out, the three mages, turn to go back below decks as the camera, zooms out drone style, revealing, the open ocean of the Caribbean that you're in. The, you know, sun just barely a hint on this horizon. We have, between several of you, quite a few experiences. Actually, I see that Wake just spent a bunch. What was that spent on? Okay. Ooh, cool. All at once. So how did that go? We'll start with the spirit. Is there anything sort of you imagine dramatically that happened which coincided with this sudden increase of revelation, or just steady experimentation over time? Hmm. 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 Um. So status three in Mystery Cult Initiation is a pretty dramatic jump up. I mean, no, so that's perfectly fine. However, I will say that that doesn't happen sort of sitting alone, reading books, gazing at your navel in the hold. However, with Wake's particular skill set, namely his adapt, no, not adapthood. What's it? The term for? someone who has 3 dots in Arcanum. It's not coming to me, but with his proficiency in the Space Arcanum, he very well could be not alone as he is exploring what it means to be a Picaroon. He could very well be building community in communication actively with people during the days, during the nights, sort of networking. Is that something Wake would have been doing? Hmm. Uh, I think that what Wake has heard in the news from home base, so to speak, is that there's a lot more construction material coming into the port these days at Nassau. Um, it seems that Gull has finally started to get serious about renovating the fort, sort of increasing the fortifications around Nassau, and it's causing a little bit of a fuss because of how much ship traffic is coming into the port that's boxing out other people. And so this is the drama that you read on Nextdoor. I mean, here through sympathetic scrying. Uh, cool. Um, yeah. Like I said earlier, this is probably going to be a short session because my tank is empty and we don't have Emmerich. Is there anything else you want to do on scene before I introduce the thing that I have? Ooh. Despite attempting to be very intimidating. Right. um, cool. So, Hull spends a couple of nights staring at herself in the one mirror that they've got down in the hold, making faces. And mm, cool. I like that. So on this current trajectory, if I recall correctly, there wasn't really a destination in mind aside from eventually Havana. So activate. Um, we were somewhere around here, and I think that we are passing the Florida Keys. We're heading quite south of the Keys because that area of the waters are quite shallow, actually, and they have very extensive reefs that go far out into the waters and make it quite treacherous for ships that have keels. The city of Miami won't be formed for quite a while to dynamite them all. So, unfortunately, no sailing through yet. However, not uh, on a day during which you don't anticipate very much to be happening. There's no port that's expected for several days until you get start closer to the Yucatan. When you hear shouting coming from above, um, there's a distinct note of panic in the deck as everyone comes up. You find yourselves staring at what looks to be an island, um, and you are fast approaching it. The helmsman is doing his best to take evasive maneuvers, but from the what you can gather, this island sort of almost appeared out of nowhere as you were sailing through the or the unoccupied waters. There's some talk about people wanting to mount a board or a exploration party to go aboard and see what supplies or treasures could be found. Others insisting that this place is cursed and that they need to leave pronto. How does the or the weird company emerge into this and shake things up? Good question. So looking out over the water, you see sort of the thrumming notes of the ship as you always expect them to be, tinged with surprise, wonder, avarice, as always, curiosity. Uh, as your gaze sort of goes out further over to the water, the song quiets. The song, becomes deader, less interesting. Sort of notes of water and wind and crabs lazily thrumming until you trace the lines to the island itself, and it is alive with the sound of music almost. There is it's almost like a full orchestra of activity. It's hard for you to fully identify the notes of the song here from this distance, but you can see the sheer amount of noise in the world song coming from this island. As far as sort of actively supernatural things, nothing jumps out at you that you can make out with the resolution from this instance, other than the extremely unusual. Is it just spirit sight then? Okay. Um, so Prime's purview also includes resonance. So looking over this island, you see powerful resonance, powerful glimmers of something that tweaks up against your internal perception of truth. Some sort of active supernatural effect. He's already there. Hmm. Okay. Uh, and the seeing your preparations, Balthazar, taking your lead, starts to gather some men for the boarding party. He himself will come, and Anselmo volunteers to come, along with a couple of others. Raoul stays aboard, as the quartermaster generally does, and I think Dalian also comes just for ease of keeping everyone together. Cool. Not long past. Go ahead. Okay, easily arranged. There are two skiffs that are prepared, lowered, and before too long. Well, so first the ship has to come to a stop, right? The La Rosa drops anchor just off of the shore of this small island, and it is a very densely jungle-filled island, as you're able to make out closer now. There's a thin strip of gray, pebbly, unappealing-looking beach. No piers, no docks, no sign of human habitation or construction as far as your eyes can see. Uh, the ship manages to avoid running aground on rocks thanks to your navigator's skilled handling, and the dinghies are dropped. Uh, you're away and step out of the water into the pebbly sand ashore. The sound of the jungle is alive almost immediately as you're stepping or as you come into earshot of the island. Birds crying, monkeys chittering, the sounds of the sun almost is louder than it is typically. Wind rustling leaves, water babbling through a small brook you can see coming out of the jungle immediately before you, and with no you know obvious path forward. The Some of the crew pull out machetes to start to try to hack their way in deeper. Others you know spread out a little bit, seeing what they can find on this beach. What are the sorcerers doing? Okay. Uh, Fair enough. So, Anselmo also pulls out a machete. I assume that you don't currently have some sort of ghostly sight up to watch Anselmo's visitor, but the he clumsily but safely enough starts swinging with the one other who's presently trying to cut a path deeper through the vines. Uh, swings, starts making his way forward, being very helpful. Um, chatter, more chattery than he typically is, attempting to, you know, make small talk and speak of home with his fellow sailor. Casually control effing something. Don't mind me. So, in terms of the vibes, the world song is level 4 here, at allowed 4. I Wake also is capable of understanding and seeing the or hearing, seeing, tasting the world song also. So I imagine that you're appreciating the vibes together. But this is probably one of the most spiritually vibrant places that they have been. The Oh, I was saying that the wildlife itself in, physics noise is also quite loud. Uh, Many birds, chattering monkeys, just a cacophony of magical and mundane noise. Uh, Active spirit sight or a spirit spell, either way, I'd say, yeah, sure. Pay the mana tax to the mana man. Hmm. Interesting. Yeah. So, turning on active mind sight, you certainly see thinking beings all around you. Your crew members, yourself, your cabal mates, and Anselmo appears to be sleeping, um, taking a little nap, despite the fact that he is hurling or swinging his machete and ably keeping making conversation, sort of within earshot of you. As well, the jungle around you is almost lighting up with smaller minds, more uh, simple minds in the form of the birds in the canopy, chittering out their thoughts, and the sort of small animals in the brush below and around. They don't seem to be terribly afraid of your presence. You don't get the sense, even for the non-naturalists among you, that they're habituated to fear of humans. Um, so looking about you, the I'm sure Wake uh, has noticed sort of the ample supplies that could be scavenged. Fruit in the trees, mangoes certainly, but also more exotic. Well, not exotic, but other fruits that defy ready categorization. Some passion fruit, perhaps, whatever they would have called those. Some you know other other foods, and running fresh water in the form of the creeks as they start stepping through the paths cleared deeper and deeper into the jungle by their crew members. About three of your crew member or the crew, stop to start to try to gather some of these, load them on the boats, leaving uh, the company or the weird company and Anselmo and Balthazar to continue their exploration further. Cut, cut, cut. Sing, sing. Birds cawing, seeking for mates. Monkeys trying to steal each other's food. The vibrancy of this place increases as you go deeper and deeper. Uh, as you cut into the jungle, the it slopes upwards. A short or a gentle grade brings you sort of upwards towards the sun as you climb up and in. Less than an hour passes of steady progress before the vines cease, the grasses sort of fade, entering a clearing. And in the center of this clearing is a large, stately uh, stone building, which I don't have a photo of. But a large stone edifice, sheer stone walls, small windows, sort of peering out from blank gray surfaces. An inset door with stone or an inset frame with stone doors within it, about a size and the size of a man's height and a half, sort of recede out of this, or recede into this tall building in this clearing. At which point, the sound physically surrounding you becomes hushed. There's no birds in the clearing, no animals running through the short island grass around this stone edifice. But for those who still have spirit sight up, the sound of the world song here becomes deafening. It increases in timbre, increases in treble. The bass is shaking. Notes of joy, of consumption, of rebirth, uh, sort of emanating, echoing here in this place as the world song intensity increases to 5. Um, well, give me a composure plus empathy roll, minus 4. Sure. Anyone who's taking a glance over at your good friend Anselmo. Mm. Uh, mm. But with that one success, you're able to sort of piece through the interference of the gap between the person piloting these expressions and the flesh that they're imperfectly controlling. And there's a vague expression of discomfort, of unhappiness almost. Whatever the vibe, these joyful vibes are, they're not really gelling, it seems. And casually look. Do I have? Am I gonna have to upload it? Um, we'll go to break soon. But yeah, actually, why don't we go to break? We'll be back in 10 minutes. So see y'all at 10 past the hour. Oh, of course. Of course. The Alrighty, welcome back. Hopefully you can hear the players this time.
Hello?
Uh, Things sure lit up, so off we go. Last before our break, the players cut their way through the jungle of this mysterious island that they'd stumbled upon, following the ever loudening or ever increasing volume of the world song, the vibrancy, the life, the rutting, the feeding, the joy, and found themselves looking at this this towering gray edifice of no windows, small windows, and a singular door uh, inlaid back into its stone walls, slightly at odds with the vibes of the local song, but intriguing nonetheless. So what do we do? Balthazar, at this point, looks at you and asks if you do you know what this is.
Wake, what do your space eyes see?
I am activating space and spirit sight, switching from mind and focusing on those two.
Okay. Looking around at the clearing that you're in, something's definitely funky with space here. This clearing is much larger than it ought to be, and especially given that you are on top of a hill, or that you have been climbing up a hill, and you had spotted this island from a way away. You should have seen this clearing, but you haven't. The you know lines of space in here are stretched, are redirected, and are woven into a space that is larger than it ought to be.
But there's no hard breakage,
Correct.
right?
There's also no. You also don't see an active supernatural effect maintaining this.
Hmm.
No
And
space spell or anything of the sort.
as for spirit, it's just the local world song is very intense.
It is more intense than you have ever seen before, even in the great metropolises of the world. If you happen to have stopped in on any of those, since being able to hear the song, never get quite this loud.
Uh, Beyond just checking the space to ensure that it is a little funky. I think Wake would definitely peek. Is the door to this building is shut?
It is closed tight.
Um, I think Wake would try to push it open,
Uh,
uh,
Physically
or
with
pull
his
or
meat
anything.
hands. Yeah.
Yeah, if that doesn't work,
Um,
busting out break boundary, but it's not very polite to do that,
sure.
usually.
Um, with the door is stone, heavy stone, on hidden hinges that you can't see. As far as the outside, outwardly presents, it seems almost like sheer stone, with tiny fault lines presenting themselves to you. With the help of Balthazar and Anselmo, slash the Lady Ghost in Anselmo, and Hull, you're all together able to get the door to give. Uh, you hear not a creak, not a groan, not anything that implies sort of, mechanical grinding, but of air coming out past you, highly pressurized and fecund with aroma, as the door opens and you enter into a relatively low ceilinged hallway. The sunlight from the outside, barely illuminating further than maybe 10 feet. Featureless stone as the outside characterizes this interior. Signs, furniture, sort of light, or lantern hooks, nothing of the sort. Sort of breaks out of the un breaks out of the gray stone.
Um,
Hmm.
I think Wake would be just continuing to make sure that there's no funky space stuff going on inside the building as there was outside.
Mhm. Um, it's a quite large building inside. Quite larger, in fact, than you would think it'd be. Uh, it's not immediately obvious to mortal eyes yet, but Wake can sort of see it stretching even further, like bubble gum. Strands of bubble gum between fingers being tugged apart. I, I don't know if they really have bubble gum in this era, but you get what I mean.
Wake's definitely trying to follow to see if there's a source of this, something that's causing the 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 stretching. There's no active supernatural effect, but he's definitely interested as to why it's getting so stretched out.
Mhm. Okay. Are you stopping to scrutinize?
Yes.
Okay. Give me a space and gnosis roll.
Can It's been a little bit. Can you spend willpower on these
Um,
spaces?
sh- Not for this one. We're not doing the full, roll over and over and over again, scrutinize rolls. I'm just treating this as a abbreviated check.
Uh,
Okay,
Failure. Can I make that a dramatic failure?
sure. Throw a beat into the pot. And as far as you can tell, this is a natural phenomenon. Like this has just happened this way. You don't see sort of marks of a craftsman or signs of a tool or a hand stretching these out. It's too the threads of space here, the reflections, the smoothness of the mirror that reflects light down this hallway in the form of space. It's all too smooth to have been done. But in terms of what this does for, I think the dramatic failure in here comes from Wake's reaction to the idea of him not being able to find the maker of this. Is he absolutely disbelieving of the idea that this could be natural, or is he, sort of driven to new heights of curiosity?
I think yeah, it would be something that he would think would have a more simple answer, and then when he starts brushing it aside and seeing that it doesn't, he would just kind of get drawn into it, searching for even more minute stuff. His curiosity's definitely piqued. He's forgetting
Okay,
about the cacophony of the world song for a second.
I think that. Uh, hmm. Scroll, scroll, scroll. I think that he is spooked. Always a good go-to, but spooked in the sense that this is something which has grabbed onto his attention more than any other mystery that he's seen before, and he feels, driven to find more. So, quick,
Spooked.
yeah. So this condition is resolved when your character's fear and fascination causes her to do something that hinders the group or complicates things. She goes off alone to investigate a strange noise, stays up all night researching, runs away instead of holding her ground, etc. Um,
All right.
and I think that this probably takes longer than usual for scrutiny, which is noticeable for everyone who's standing sort of immediately behind Wake, who was the first in and is standing stock still for even up to a minute.
Hull, while this is going on, is going to take the opportunity to answer Balthazar's question of do we know what this is? And the answer is no. Um, this is a precipice, uh, even for even for we wise, and as such, it is doubly so for the rest of the crew. So I think she doesn't necessarily just want to leave everybody behind, um, but she is putting the choice in front of Balthazar whether he wants to come, whether he wants to allow any of the other rest of the crew to come. But she is going to point at Anselmo and say, I want Anselmo to come with us.
I think this gets a combination of uh, a smile and some other indistinguishable facial expression smeared together out of Anselmo, who's standing probably behind Balthazar before he turns to look at him. Balthazar is still curious, but I think he knows better than to ask right this moment with Anselmo there. But he says, no, not after what happened, whatever happened. His brain, sort of reflexively flinching away from what happened to the crew in the underworld. He said that he will, gather the others and help them, hack down supplies, gather fruit, and we will wait for you at the beaches.
Very well.
Okay. And at this, he gives a long, hard look at Anselmo as he's walking away. And Anselmo, well, the woman in Anselmo's flesh is sort of tottering, sort of behind you. I say tottering, not in the twee, fun way, but in the slightly less coordinated than typical way. Uh, and Anselmo's mouth says, "I think you've made a good choice. I could be helpful to you here. Should anything happen." A touch of arrogance that is very unusual coming out of this particular person's mouth.
I think Hull is just going to respond, um, not too hostilely, but a little coolly. That yes, that would be in your interests.
Yeah. Eventually, Wake sort of rouses himself out of his archaeological trance.
Uh, Glancing up and noticing that the others have already taken off back towards the beach. Nick will just kind of, stand up and brush himself off and say, "Oh, they're not going to continue with us."
I gave them the choice, and given prior experience, Balthazar thought it would be better if they held back.
Probably for the best. I still can't make heads or tails of this the location. Something about it is causing it to stretch out, but it doesn't seem to have an apparent source.
Yeah, this does not seem like the kind of place that will yield its secrets. Um, you know, at the very surface of the thing. And I think Hull is going to take the opportunity to to kind of open up the question to the ghost and kind of ask, what do you make of this place?
Um, Anselmo Anselmo's head looks up, looks around, and then slumps down again. Anselmo sort of falling asleep on his feet, um, as there's a cool breeze that sort of passes by your shoulders. You're nothing sort of caught in your periphery, but there's silence and silence, and eventually there is a sound that comes from the end of the hallway, sort of a scratching as the wall of the like so there's a sort of a T intersection at the end of this big long stretch, and it is marred by a shaky, glowing fungal phosphorescence that draws an arrow pointing to the right. At which point, Anselmo, still asleep on his feet, begins, tottering forward towards it.
Okay, Hole is gonna warily follow in that case.
It's a long
Uh,
walk. Go ahead.
I was going to say Wake is also going to follow after the ghost.
Um, it's a long walk. Several signs. Two more signs appear. You take a right turn and a left turn. The featureless. Does anyone light a light source? Out of curiosity, or do you proceed in the
Um,
darkness?
I think Hole would, yeah, Hole would just would have gotten the torch from one of the others and would have lit
Well,
that.
sounds good. Um, it's a long, long walk. Longer than you would expect, having taken an immediate right turn in a building of this size. And I think the thing that gets to you both the most quickly is for those of you with your spirit sight still up. The deafening amount of spiritual activity that echoes and permeates this space. The world song's resonance, sort of riotously painting over you and over everything with those same notes of rebirth, of consumption, of uh, uh, the third thing that I said that will come back to me. Um, Contrasted with the complete and utter material silence. Uh, the sound of your footsteps, the only sound that you can hear, the crackle of the torch, and not even an echo due to the low, low ceiling and the seemingly absorptive properties of the stone that surrounds you. Eventually, you come out into a chamber. Not an enormous chamber, not cavernous, but certainly, the size of, say, a warehouse that you might have been in a minor port. Stone stretches out either side of you. In this large chamber, you see the first furniture that you've encountered. Uh, Stone tables, seemingly, with benches, sort of in rows, extend into this open space of the chamber, and the ranges above it surround this open space with balconies. The balconies have, similarly constructed stone walls that block your sight of what occurs on the other side of them. But you finally start to encounter the first echo that you have heard since stepping foot in here. On the other side of the room is another door, uh, and some small alcoves sort of are shadowed from your torches on the walls running parallel. And at this, Anselmo sort of you know lifts his head back up, shakes his shoulders, and his mouth says, "I figured I'd wait for you here. There's many tunnels, and I didn't want to range too far, stacked like rats warring on top of each other, or a nest."
So he said, "I'm I'm sorry. I think you're dead. Wait, did he say?
Hmm?
The first thing that he said, I think.
I
Did you
figured
say?
I'd wait for you here.
Right. Okay. I completely misheard that, and I said I thought they said, "I think you're dead. Wait," and I was like, "Oh, okay. It's combat time." Okay.
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Okay. Well, we've
Silent
got
as
a
the grave.
stage. Um, Fine. Yeah. This seems like a good point. For us to do that. Was the third thing in the world song joy, or am I misremembering that as well?
I That sounds correct.
Okay.
Hmm.
Because hmm, yeah, I'm just thinking like what kind of tilts we could bring about from that. Hmm. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm happy to get to exploring these warrens and things like that. Um, Definitely relying on Wake in terms of not losing our way here.
Hmm. Though, is this there's benches. Are they kind of arranged in any particular way? Are there just like rows and rows of benches?
They're arranged in rows, approximately 7 rows. They're spaced pretty far apart. You don't see implements upon them. You don't see sort of signs of people having used them. But as you investigate and take a closer look, you do see you know signs of, well, I'm gonna have to contradict what I just said. You don't see papers or implements laying about, but this is the first place in the this area where you have seen signs of people having used them. Scuff marks where maybe someone's heel dragged after getting up out of the chair. A slightly, discolored portion where someone may have sat many times over a long time. But the
Well,
space is clean. The janitors did a good job, whoever they are.
I think Wake is probably going to try to cast a spell then.
Okay.
I think I've got a pretty good idea. Seeing the signs of human habitation, I think I'd like to cast a spirit unveiling on one of the notes in the world song to see what might have led to its creation.
Okay.
Because I was reading the practices in the world song, and that's listed as a potential example. Now that I see that there's people here, I want to see maybe we can learn what purpose they had for this room
I like
by
it.
checking the resonance.
I'm not gonna make you roll for it, but go ahead and spend your mana. So which note are you investigating, if it's anyone in particular? What
That
is Wake
that
most
is the
interested in?
question. I think of these, I feel like Rebirth definitely sticks out a little bit because it feels one of the maybe like least natural. I feel like joy resonance has probably been something Wake's seen. maybe not as much in towns like Nassau as you might expect, Nassau, but consumption definitely in the natural world, but rebirth definitely a rarer one. I would think. So he's going to try to hone in on that specific note.
Okay. Um,
And
give.
I guess I was going to do like a type of spell to unveil it to maybe all present.
Sure, that's fine.
Um,
Oh,
Um,
that's
give a he will like make the world song manifest, kind of pick out that specific note and isolate it from the rest.
sounds good to me.
Um, bring it into
So
sharp clarity.
everyone roll for me spirit plus gnosis. Or actually, no. What was I gonna do? Yeah, gnosis plus yeah, just give me spirit plus gnosis. Don't want to overcomplicate it.
Can we spend willpower on this one?
Sure.
3.
So you feel within yourselves as this, riotous, deafening note of the world song is brought to manifest within you, vibrate within you, almost like I don't know if any of the players IRL have ever used one of those like bone headphones where it uses, the sound is actually produced by vibrations like sent from the apparel like into like the bones of your ear, and that causes the sound to like start
No, but
being
that sounds
created in your
really
head.
cool. I've
Um,
never
you
heard of those before.
you feel within yourself the sensation of a snake crawling, writhing, consuming mice within itself, within the long thinness of its body. At which point, or after which, the snake unhinges its jaws and starts to turn itself inside out, disgorging from itself a new snake, uh, which disgorges from itself another new snake, which disgorges from itself endless snakes. These snakes consume, 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 and then are reborn, are create new snakes, endless snakes, life unending, life unceasing, consumption and rebirth forever and ever, never stopping, never ceasing, and yeah, I don't want to say the word endless until we reach semantic satiation, but this sort of sensation of being turned inside out, and through turning yourself inside out, you emerge anew again, renewed. Through putting your innermost self, or through your innermost self being projected out into the world again, new body and consuming. And this is you both succeeded. You both sort of understand this sort of that this is the sensation, that this is the meaning of the world song, or this note of the world song, and you're able to sort of internalize it without sort of losing your grip on your own biology. Um, Anselmo doesn't seem to be coping as well. Anselmo or the ghost, it's hard for you to tell without, the ability to see his passenger. But I think he vomits, yeah. Appropriately enough for the vision that you've just had.
So as the does that give a sense of that this note kind of came about more due to just a lot of little influences,
Um,
constant
as
rebirth
far
and
as far as the source of this note is below. Uh, it is here. It originated and is originating from an entity experiencing this now about you.
Oh,
And I think I'm gonna I'm gonna do something condition wise because that seems appropriate. Um,
Hmm.
since you succeeded, I think it'll be an okay condition. So the condition is life unending, and you will gain a beat when you act in a way that so life is unending. You'll be reborn. This shell is just a temporary step, and if you do something that makes you think that you've got another 9 lives, for example, you'll resolve that, and you'll roll with rote quality. So, for example, something particularly risky because nothing ever dies.
nice. And with I guess following that, Wake is just going to immediately set off towards like if with the knowledge it's sort of below, he's just going to take off into some of the side. You said there were side warrens or side tunnels.
uh, Alcoves. The only sort of exit that you can see is on the other side of this large room, with sort of a central channel between, or a central corridor, I suppose, between the desks. Go ahead. And what's the dodge roll again?
It's your defense twice.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead and roll twice your defense pool with rote.
Twice my defense pool. Uh, am I allowed to spend willpower on these ones? Otherwise, I
Um,
think it is an it's 0, I think.
is it?
If you if I get a minus, yeah. I did not up my athletics, so it is still 0.
What do you get? What are you getting the minus from?
Uh, well, do you get a minus on a 0 skill for this, or is it just 0?
Oh, no,
It's
your
so
defense is calculated as lowest of wits and dexterity plus um, plus your athletics.
right. It's not a
Okay.
skill
So
check. It's
there's no skill
You don't
penalty.
take
Okay.
away from it. Yeah, so
right,
it's double the lowest of your dexterity or wits.
All
which
right.
would be
I'll.
doubling one.
This is a little risky, so double, but it's rote, right?
Yes.
Let's see how this goes.
Oh, nice.
I'm a basic success anyway.
Cool. So as you are running across this down this hallway, you're heading for the next door. You're going for the explore, or you're going to where the source of this sensation is. Uh, you hear uh, chick, 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 as it seems like mechanisms have been triggered, and peripheral mage sites sort of catch glimmers, or glimmers, notes, rustles from the balconies above, as a uh, stream of snakes sort of are hurled from the balconies through unknown mechanisms. Enormous snakes that have materialized sort of almost out of nowhere, and they are hungry. They seem to fly almost preternaturally towards the center call, or the center channel, and somehow Pascal manages to make it through without getting bit by any of them, as this rain of reptiles falls atop him, attempting to grab at his flesh, sink their dripping jaws into him, and then as soon as he reaches the other side, they're gone.
Like gone?
Gone.
Like they just disappear? Whoa. Uh, He'll turn back towards the rest of the company to see if they're also dealing with a rain of reptiles.
Did anyone else make a break for it?
Um, I think Hull would certainly be following along, but before we see if Hull is eaten alive by snakes, so the ghost was planning on staying back there, right?
I think that based on sort of the presentation, you guys made a run for it, and probably the ghost, in its presently vomiting state, was a little slower to catch up, or rather, a little slower to start, which means Anselmo's still back there. Um,
Okay.
is it
This
going to
is
happen again if Anselmo tries to, go? Who can say?
what I was kind of planning on doing before we started exploring was to for Hull to sort of to give her soul stone to Anselmo as a kind of, if we're going to get separated, then I'll be able to find you, kind of thing. Sort of as a show of trust, and as a kind of precaution, I suppose. So
Okay. I think that that's something that you could have done when first coming into the room. If we want to
yeah,
retcon that.
yeah. But then, yeah, absolutely. Hull is going for it as well.
Okay. Um, sounds good. I think that the ghost sort of seeing what has occurred, and not being terribly, afraid, albeit nauseated by the vibes, instead takes the long way around without, drawing things out too much. Edges around the edge of the room, and is not beset by snakes. And I think that I'm not going to draw out this too much further, but you do encounter numerous other dangers as you explore. There are traps, there are, hidden passageways, there are wards and obstacles. What describe to me sort of what your character has to lose if things go poorly. Just give me an outcome that could occur, whether that be a condition that manifests, a tilt that stays with them through the rest of the exploration, something lost. We'll start with Scout.
This is what you said. What we're like losing,
Yeah.
or what we're afraid of losing.
What is a potential, a stake here? I'm abstracting sort of the rest of the crawl, and I will ask
Mm.
for a roll. But we'll figure out sort of what exactly happened, what was the obstacle based on what you possibly suffer as a consequence. Building it
Well,
backwards, so to speak.
with with that spooked, I think Wake is definitely going to try to use. We're in a very spiritually resonant place. Um, so definitely willing to lean more on perhaps spirit and spirit sight, both of which at this point pretty mana intensive.
Mm,
Um, so I think sort of mental or mystical resources, focus through willpower or um, definitely like mana through
okay,
having to crystal take those truths.
I like it. So potential consequence, no mana. Um, give me uh a so you encounter a room containing an enormous series of crystals, almost a glass garden, almost of sculptures and crystals, sort of on stone pedestals embedded into walls, catching your eye, misdirecting. Give me a resolve and composure roll to avoid being taken off the path.
To success.
Well, um, you only lose 2 mana in the course of the rest of your adventuring. And what does Hull stand to suffer or lose?
So the truth that they gleaned of the of the the ever reborn snake, um, the serpent, Ouroboros, and all that, felt particularly resonant um, with Hull's path. Um, it just it felt extremely true and sat really well with her experience of that supernal world. But in the same sense, it is also deficient and has blind spot in the same way that her path does. In that, yes, the flesh doesn't matter. Um, it can be restored. It will be reborn. Her own safety isn't the problem here. Um, it is those intangible relationships and the way the homunculus that lives in that flesh um, that can be damaged. And with while she's been trying to rein in on her hastiness and her disregard for the feelings of others, um, she is still kind of battling with um, maintaining other people's respect and maintaining other people's faith in her as part of the social contract of the company and kind of as a person. So I think what she stands to lose is her temper. She stands to sort of damage the relationship that she's already kind of poked holes in with the rest of the company.
Okay, let's see. All right. So there is a pit. There is a deep, deep pit, and over this pit, are the only passage is between far platforms, which are connected only by the most tenuous you know of distances, of handholds, of spaces that must be jumped, of uh, you know it is a demanding and it is a demanding environment to navigate that requires a lot of trust in the people coming after you. Give me a dexterity and uh, manipulation roll.
I'm going to spend a willpower on this.
Good choice. Cool. Um, so you make your way across through the help of your wits and the wits of those around you. There comes a moment where you stumble, your hand slips, you find yourself teetering, uh, and Anselmo is the one who needs to pull you back up onto the platform. And do do I model this with something? No, you make it through. Everyone slips. Everyone needs help sometimes, and you probably find yourself, at least somewhat shaken or humbled by, dependence on someone else to bail you out. by the end of it, and this is also probably an occasion on which you remark that Anselmo is much stronger than he was on his own. He almost sort of pulls you up off of the edge single handed, uh, light as a feather. Uh, and that makes you remark on the corporeal strength that this creature piloting his flesh has access to. In the end, you make it through, scratched, bruised, probably drained a bit of resources, and you find yourselves staring down into a pit cage. You find yourselves at the edge in a similarly dreary, drab, plain stone room, but having encountered the first decoration that you've seen the entire time here. The pit is surrounded by a sprawling, rather, winding golden circle of runes, almost serpentine in its pattern, occasionally leaving the floor and crawling up onto the wall, then back down to join the floor just around the edge of this pit. The pit is large. It's approximately, oh, let's say the size of an Olympic swimming pool. And as you lift your torches up over this precipice, having come down the stairs into this chamber, your light reflects off of teeth, off of eyes, off of fingernails and toes and claws, uh, and moist, rippling flesh, tongue, sinew, glistening organs as a mass of flesh roiling, expanding, contracting beneath you swirls. Hearts consuming fingernails, arms grasping and tearing apart and consuming snakes, which are themselves regurgitating birds which had been eaten, which are being eaten by monkeys, which are being born out of mice that have split themselves open like ripe fruit. A substance which is consuming itself for lack of consumption unending and trapped. As at this point where sort of your peripheral mage sight is screaming, it is almost sort of very actively being overstimulated, or being very actively stimulated by the magical nature of what occurs below you in this pit. And as you turn to look down at it, every eye within the mass of flesh below uh, turns to look up at you, tracking you, even as the location of these eyes swirls and changes and is displaced by ever engorging and decaying bits of flesh. And the words that echo in your head, but not in sound, conveyed through the world song to you, is "Let me out." And I think that we'll cut it there.
Seems trustworthy.
Okay, cool. Like as I said before, this will be a little shorter one because I'm falling asleep on my feet and we don't have the folk ball. And I think this is a good cliffhanger since obviously I can't leave you in a field or a meadow or a mangrove forest or anywhere
Uh-huh.
slightly less
That's a
precarious.
perfect point to cut. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for watching, and thanks for letting us know about our technical difficulties. Sorry about the lack of player audio, so you only had to listen to my monologuing. But we'll catch you next time.